Many parts make up a premiership team. Star veterans, rookies with perfect timing, and those who fought hard to win a spot. Some had to cross borders, others dazzled at a young age, and some grabbed a second chance. Now everyone is chasing the demons, and it begins at the NAB AFL Draft.
Pick number 1, Sam Walsh.
Jacob Wiedering.
A handshake.
Cameron Rayner with Andrew McGrath.
A smile for the camera.
Dustin Martin. Nakia Cockatoo.
Hugh McCluggage.
Joe Danaher.
Dreams become real. School kids become AFL footballers. Ready-made stars.
Right spot, right time, and the right moment for the number 2 draft pick. Now Franklin, a long way from goal.
Adelaide's very similar to Geelong.
The bigger the stage, the better he is.
Diamonds in the rough.
How good is this kid? A young gun. How's the finish? It is perfection.
Names cheered for generations. This might be the first time you hear these names, but boy, it won't be the last.
Pick 1, North Melbourne Football Club have selected Jason Horne-Francis.
The future is now. This is the 2021 NAB AFL Draft on Fox Footy.
Good evening and welcome to night 2 of the AFL 2021 Draft. The dreams of 20 young men came true last night and we're expecting more of the same tonight with rounds 2 onwards. Let's welcome the panellists. Kevin Shifter-Sheen, the AFL talent manager. You're armed with pages and notes. You must be very excited for tonight.
Very excited, Tommy. We hope to double that number tonight to around the 40 players that will become instantly household names in the AFL world at least.
And Lee Montagna, the St Kilda champion. You're going to analyse all these picks tonight. What are you expecting?
Yeah, look, I'm expecting another great night. I mean, we thought that there were some nervous boys last night and some excitement. Well, in all reality, they knew they were going to get drafted. It was just a matter of which club. But tonight, there's probably 80-odd young men sitting at home, about 40 spots, as Shifter said, looking to live out their boyhood dream. So it's going to be some nervous moments, but, gee, some excitement when they do get drafted. So we wish them all luck. And for those that miss out, you know, never give up. There's always other avenues to get into the AFL system.
So round 2 is not far away, but Jason Horne-Francis was at the top of the draft last night. Do you see him making an impact straight away at North Melbourne?
Oh, absolutely, Tom. I mean, we've seen for a number of years now these young kids come into the AFL system ready to play and ready to impact straight away. He's going to be no exception. He's ready to go. He might not start in the centre square round 1 at the Kangaroos, but he'll certainly be on a half-forward flank, be able to be part of that midfield group. And I think he can change the fortunes of the Kangaroos almost immediately, like what we've seen with Sam Walsh and Matt Rao and other guys, and the impact they can have straight away.
And you can't underestimate the grounding. He's had 2 years at senior level at South Adelaide, so he's ready to run.
All right, there's some real heartwarming shows of emotion last night. That was one of them. And we see the North Melbourne Footy Club there. They've got Jason Horne-Francis. But last night, I was at London Tavern where Ben Hobbs was stoked to be selected by the Bombers, and he was also wiping away tears. You see, he was selected with pick 13. He's just coming up soon. And then the other one was Darcy Wilmot as well. This was Hobbs crying, Joey, and there were tears of joy. It was really great scenes.
Absolutely. Tears of joy, tears of relief as well, because it's been a long build-up for these players. You've got to remember, there hasn't been a lot of football this year for many of them. It's a long build-up now with exams and media and the scrutiny around the draft. So to finally hear your name called out, and as I said earlier, live your boyhood dream, it's one of the great moments that you'll never forget in your life. And we had all different types of emotions, and you can see there, Ben Hobbs, great to see that rawness in him.
And Darcy Wilmot as well, Shifter, the Brisbane Lions. What a good pickup that is.
Yeah, and the youngest player in the draft. Hey, born 4 hours later, he'd be the first choice next year. But he's surrounded by his mates. They did get around him, didn't they? We're a bit worried he might have broken a few ribs here, but he came up pretty well this morning, and he'll become a Brisbane Lion player.
Yeah, well, this is what we want to see more of tonight, Tommy. These sort of celebrations. This is what it's all about. This is what it was a bit more like in the old days too. You could celebrate and carry on a bit more like that.
What was it like for you in 2001, Joey?
Well, mine was I was at schoolies on the Gold Coast, so I must admit mine was similar to that sort of celebration. No cameras back then.
Certainly no video phones in 2001. All right, it's time to welcome in Fox Footy's draft expert over in WA, Mick Ablett, to the coverage for the first time tonight. A big night in Perth last night. But tell us, first and foremost, are we going to see Fremantle use pick 21, the first pick in the second round, on Matt Johnson, Mick?
Good evening, boys. Tommy, you've sort of backed me into a corner here, but I'm going to sit on the fence for the first a little bit of this day two of the draft, because there has been a lot of conjecture around the second round of the draft. I know a number of clubs have really tried hard to get back in because the talent's still on the board without success. So it just goes to show how highly the clubs that are in the mix for that second round, and particularly through 20 through to 30, how much they value these selections and the players still on the board. So anything could happen. I think if Fremantle do give it up, they're certainly going to get their money's worth, and maybe even a bit more because of, like I say, the value that's still sitting there on the board in the 2021 draft.
Just stay there for a second, Mick. Joey, Hawthorn, we know, like Matt Johnson. Could they swoop?
Well, absolutely, they could. I mean, if you really look at the second round of the draft, there's 5 clubs have got 13 selections, 13 of the 18 selections. So clubs like North Melbourne, Geelong, Hawthorn and Richmond, who we believe might want to move up the board, and the West Coast Eagles really dominate this second round. So they are the teams that we're going to look for, and if they are going to try and improve their position, it might be to get that pick 21.
And Mick, last night, 2 picks in the top 10, the Fremantle Dockers, they'd be pretty happy with their haul.
Yeah, absolutely. I just spoke to Justin Longmuir just prior to coming on air, and a very, very happy Fremantle outfit. Not only did they get the key forward they were chasing, and they also topped up with that tough inside mid, maybe someone to learn off David Mundy for the next 12 months or so as he gets to the tail end of his career. But a very, very happy Fremantle Docker outfit, and looking forward to day 2 where they can just add a little bit more talent to the mix of those 2 boys that they've already brought into the club. And
they worked hard to keep that pick 21, so I'm sure they'll be looking to use unless a deal was too good to refuse. Thanks, Mick. We'll check back in with you a little bit later on. So from Perth to Marvel Stadium, where Sarah Ollie is standing by. Sarah, it's just another day and there's some COVID chaos as well. Bring us up to speed.
Good evening, Tom. You're absolutely on the money. In fact, the foyer just to my right here, well, it's turned into a little mini COVID triage. We've all had to have rapid tests upon arrival, and that's because it has since been revealed that a club staffer who was here at Marvel Stadium last night, well, they've tested positive for COVID. So everyone upon arrival, as you can see, getting their names ticked off when they do these rapid tests. And the good news is, so far, no positive tests. Now, along with the rapid test, there has been a tightening of restrictions. You can see no one's immune. Even our own Johnny Ralph getting it right up the schnock there. But masks must be worn throughout the entire evening. And the AFL have also asked that clubs don't commingle, so they do stay in the rooms where they are making selections. But that's all the bad news. I'm all about the good news this evening, boys. And I'm hoping to see a few more scenes like we saw in Darcy Wilmot's lounge room last night when they're all piling on top of each other, because that's what draft night's all about.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll check back in with you as the night goes on. Shifter, there's some good players left. Who are we expecting to be at the top of the whiteboards for the clubs that are in the 20s?
Well, these are the Fox Footy rankings, and you can see that some highly rated boys are still on the board. Look for Jesse Motlop, son of Daniel, but not eligible father-son. So he's one of the complex one. He's Next Generation Academy, Fremantle. But if there's a bid inside 40, they can't match the bid. They'll be hoping that he gets outside 40 and they can pick him up with ease.
So these are the Fox Lab rankings, and as you can see, pick 13 and 14, well, they're still on the table. Many thought that Johnson would go last night, Joey. He's held over to tonight, and I bet you there's some clubs that are looking to get him. Yeah,
and a lot of midfielders in that group as well. So we saw last night shifted, didn't we? A lot of key defenders went, and the clubs took players on specific needs. So it's left a lot of quality midfielders in the early part of this second round. So look for clubs like Richmond and Hawthorn that we know are looking for midfielders to swoop early.
All right, round 2's not far away. Stay with us on Fox. It's coming up right after this.
On behalf of the AFL, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, the traditional owners of the land we meet on today, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge we play our great game on this land and respect the cultures of all First Peoples, their contribution to our nation and their contribution to the game of Australian rules football. Round 2 of the 2021 NAB AFL Draft starts now. And Fremantle Football Club, you're on the clock.
So these are the Dockers, Simon Garlick and Bob Murphy and Peter Bell over to the left, with Justin Longmuir there in Perth, Joey, and all the boys on the right are in Melbourne.
Yeah, the 2 different venues there. So you can see the COVID masks in Melbourne and the Fremantle over there. Bob Murphy not sitting next to the coach tonight. He was there last night, front and centre for the top 10 picks, but he's now found a different spot in the corner, and begin waiting to see where they take Matthew Johnson, the local product, who highly talented shifter, isn't he? A lot of clubs put ahead of him in his top sort of 10 to 12 in that range on their lists, and somehow he sort of slipped through to this first pick in the second round.
Yeah, watch him coming through. It reminds me of a Mitch Duncan as a young fella, as a 17, 18-year-old coming through. He's just so composed, a great user of the football, and he played well grand final day. That's the early curtain raiser they had, the WA versus SA state game. A big occasion, wins the medal. They're all great signs. He's a boy of 192 centimetres. I'd see him playing out in the wing for a start, but as he grows physically stronger, he can get into the midfield, into the stoppage sort of area and have an impact. So I think he's the best credential player that's left on the board.
So there has been a bit of talk about a comparison to Scott Pendlebury. Shifter, is that fair? I mean, he's got that beautiful sidestep, obviously got the height, can play outside, and then Scott Pendlebury was able to obviously develop into one of the all-time greats. We're not saying that, but certainly got those attributes at his age.
Well, the key is waiting 3 years for that, to him grow physically in terms of putting on some weight to be able to mix it with the bigger bodies inside. But that outside run and ball use for his assets right this minute.
That's Ed McMullen on the phone there on the right. In the Melbourne-based office, Peter Bell and Justin Longmuir. You'd think that Fremantle would have got some reasonable offers, but it'd have to be a pretty good offer to get pick 21. I'm just looking down the draft order here. Geelong have picks 24 and 25. But, Joey, if you remember back to the trade period, the Dockers worked so hard to keep pick 21 and also get Jordan Clark, or get the first pick of the second round and also get Jordan Clark in from Geelong.
Yeah, it was a great get by David Walls and his team to get a hold of this first pick in the second round, because clubs have now had almost 24 hours to come up with some offers to try and move up into the draft. They've been able to consider everything and in a really strong position, and now it's up to them whether they want to take Matthew Johnson or trade the pick.
Pick 21. Fremantle have selected Matthew Johnson from Subiaco.
Well, it may have taken 24 hours, but I reckon their sum up last night would have been, gee, how can we get hold of this fella? We can't believe our luck. They would have thought we're only going to get 2 of the Western Australian best boys. They've ended up with 3 of them. This is a great win for Freo. They'll be absolutely wrapped, and you probably can't hide their emotion and the emotion of, I think, Matt Johnson too. He'd be delighted to be staying at home and playing on those vast wings of the Optus Stadium.
Yeah, and be wrapped for the young man. Obviously a little bit awkward, a little bit deflating for him last night, not getting picked up, but to stay in his hometown, to now be drafted with 2 other Western Australians, and he is one of the best kicks in the draft. Make no mistake, he's, as Shifter said, got that ability to play on the outside, and he might start his AFL career as a wingman. You can see here, always wanting to bring the ball back into the corridor, change his angles, got a lovely step, and at 192 centimetres, he's the prototype of the modern AFL midfielder.
Joey, do you think that clubs take into account where players are from in the first place? I mean, Fremantle have got a good culture going. They've got a good successful culture, they hope, in the future years. But they've lost Adam Cerra, they've lost Ed Langdon home in recent years. Do you think that plays into it at all?
Not really. I just think it's a bonus. I think it's a bonus that they've got a top 10 talented player still available. He's from Western Australia. Same with the other boys. I think it was a great crop of Western Australians this year, and to be able to get the 3 best junior Western Australians from this year and all go to the Fremantle Dockers, they must be wrapped with what they've done this period.
Mick Ablett's in Perth. 3 locals for the Dockers. They must be very happy over there, Mick.
Absolutely, and isn't it amazing what 24 hours can do in football? It was tears last night in the family. Would have gone home a pretty flat young man, and then today gets the news that he's staying in Perth and now on an AFL list. So congratulations to the Fremantle Dockers and to Matt Johnson and his family. I'm sure they'd be absolutely stoked. When you watch him play, I love the fact he's at his best when he keeps it simple. Matt Johnson is an absolute elite athlete. He's a very good midfielder. And I actually think Bailey Dale, when I see him play, I think he's really got that ability to either come off a wing, to come off half-back. He can pinch hit through the midfield, but loves to set up play, loves to create. He just sits off the contest, very good either side of the body, as we see here on the vision. And as we saw, he is a bargain buy. He's an absolute steal for Fremantle. To get him at pick 21 is just a great result for them and also for West Australian football.
He's one of those players, Tom, that's able to find time and space. He's always had that ability. And this is something that really improved in his game this year, his ability to win contests, to be able to go and play as an inside midfielder that ideally he would like to develop into and become an inside mid as his body gets bigger and he grows into his size. But you can see his numbers there. The kicking efficiency is the one that stands out. As we said, one of the best kicks in the draft, certainly the best kick in Western Australia. And he's going to slot in beautifully, probably pretty early at Fremantle and get some good game time.
So North Melbourne's got a couple of minutes left. Shifter, we've also got a full body of work for these players in WA. They've had full seasons, unlike some of the kids in Victoria and New South Wales.
Yeah, it's the old production versus potential. So he's had production production for 2 years. They've been analysing probably close to 40 games of footy from Matt Johnson. The Vic boys, they average about 6 games the last 2 years. Nothing last year, about 12 this year. So you're looking at potential rather than the production over a long period of time. So it's a little bit of crystal balling there on the Victorian boys' ability to be stars at AFL level.
Which sort of player in North Melbourne looking for here, do you think, Joey?
Well, I think there's a couple of key areas. I think that maybe a tall defender is an area that they are a bit light on for, that they might look at. As we saw with the board, though, there might not be those available at the moment. So certainly some outside class as well, I think, for the Kangaroos. I mean, Sean Atlee's moved on. Aaron Hall has been terrific, but he's getting a bit older. And they've got Bailey Scott and Jaden Stevenson and some other players, but maybe some run and outside talent might be something they're looking for as well.
Pick 22, North Melbourne have selected Josh Gota.
He'll break the lines, take the game on, and it was 2 brilliant games he had at the end of the NAB League season in that role. Earlier in the year, he was playing as the wingman and then the inside mid. He's 190 centimetres. He has got elite vision and composure with the footy, this boy. The rep game, which we'll refer to a bit between Metro and Country, you saw that he was at his best then. 23 disposals right there in the middle of the ground, but he just got the ball in his hands, summed things up and slipped it out brilliantly to his teammates on the run. So he's got lots of scope, can play lots of positions, and at 190, he's the ideal type.
So he's a utility, and as a result, North Melbourne have picked him up, and this is the reaction when they read out his name. Brad Scott, there he goes. He's a North Melbourne player now. Glenn Luff, the list manager, they looked at all the available options and they've decided on Josh Gota, and Hawthorn's up next. Joey, that's a pretty good selection based on the rankings that we have from the Fox Lab. Yeah, his athletic profile is what really stood out. He's got the leg speed, he's got that ability to mark overhead, and that real athletic trait. He's probably more of the athlete than the natural footballer, you could say. He's probably not as maybe as refined with his skills as some of the sort of top 20 picks in this draft, but you can see here his athletic traits that stand out. He's a beautiful size at 190 centimetres, so he's probably more comfortable at the moment on a half-back flank or a wing, but as Shifter said, can probably develop into that midfielder because he loves to take the game on. He knows he's got those athletic attributes, Tom, so he wants to use them. And this is what you're going to see from this player. This is the perfect example. Use that athleticism, drive out of stoppage, take a run and bounce, and the Kangaroos have got themselves a beauty. I think David Noble's been in the sun. He looks pretty tan there. The North Melbourne coach. He's got a negative test back yesterday. He's able to be there last night, and he's there again tonight. So Josh Gota, we're going to chat to him now on the Fox Footy coverage. What an amazing time to be speaking to us, Josh, and us speaking to you. You must be so stoked with being a North Melbourne player now.
Yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon. Obviously, followed North Melbourne my whole life, and yeah, I'm absolutely stoked to be able to be at that pick and land myself at that club. So I'm absolutely rapt to get into it with that bunch of boys, and yeah, looking forward to it next week. Congratulations, Josh. Tell us about last night. Obviously, watching the draft, you might have been hopeful to have got selected. How did you sleep? How did you sort of go watching it last night and not hearing your name called out and having to wait another 24 hours? Yeah, it was a bit of mixed emotions last night. Obviously, I would have loved to go last night. It would have relieved a bit of the stress a bit, but I'm absolutely over the moon to land at North Melbourne tonight, and it was worth the wait. I'm absolutely rapt to get into it, and yeah, can't wait for next week. Josh, who was your favourite North Melbourne player growing up? Yeah, so I was a forward all my junior career, so Drew Petrie was someone that I always looked up to growing up as a youngster. And who are you with tonight, and how are you going to celebrate? Yeah, so with mum and dad and my brother at the moment, so mates couldn't come over, so because he's got graduation at the moment, so I'll be rocking up late to graduation, so looking forward to that. So you're going to go to the graduation? Yeah, I'll be rocking up a bit late. I was tossing up between going now and watching the draft at the table, but yeah, I made the decision to stay at home with the family and watch it. It's a pretty good graduation. Oh, mate, absolutely. Go and get the suit on, go and enjoy the night with all your school friends. Well done, mate. Congratulations. Good luck for your career. Thanks, boys. Cheers. That's Josh Gota, pick 22 to North Melbourne. How good's that? He's going to rock into graduation like a king tonight, isn't he? He's going to have the strut going, but so he should. Sunbury College Shifter for Josh Gota. And just up the road, hey, Ross Smith, of course, coached him there at the Calder Cannons, a star for North Melbourne back in the day, and had 15 or 20 years coaching young players coming through, and no doubt he's put some polish on him. What sort of player are we looking for the Hawthorn Footy Club here? Pick 23. They were clearly keen on Matt Johnson, couldn't get up the order enough. What are we looking at? Yeah, look, they've already taken one midfielder with Josh Ward. You think maybe another midfielder? With pick 23, Hawthorn have selected Sam Butler.
from the Greater Western Victorian Rebels.
Sam Butler.
The brother of Dan, of course, the Saint now that was a Tiger. He's a little bit bigger than the brother, but he's got a lot of the traits of the brother in a very elusive player, terrific acceleration. And we love the word, footy IQ or footy nous. Yeah. He can sniff the footy out of whether it's a stoppage or up around the goals. I liken him to a bit of Huey McCluggage at the moment, just because of that ability to weave through the traffic and be pretty poised with it. McCluggage, of course, was from the Rebels. This boy is he'd be the fourth player from the Rebels taken already. That's a fantastic result from Greater Western Victoria to have him go through. And the third from St Pat's. What a school it has been for producing champions of the game. So Sam Butler is the next player and will stay home in Victoria to go to the Hawks.
Yeah, Phil Pardo will be really pleased that another GWV boy has been drafted. It's been a bit of a lean run in recent years, but they've got a good crop this year, and Sam Butler, he's going to be a little ripper as well. I think liken him to a little bit of Zach Butters. He's that type of player that can come up into the midfield, but also can pinch hit forward, burst out of stoppage, get forward to the ball and hit the scoreboard. All right, Sam Butler's ready to go. Sam, congratulations on being selected by Hawthorn. Talk us through your emotions. Can you put it into words?
Not really, to be honest. I'm absolutely over the moon. Hard to put into words, but just grateful for the opportunity, I suppose. Can't wait to get into it. Pretty generic, but yeah, just can't wait.
Did you know that Hawthorn were keen on you?
I did have a few with them. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to tell, really. Most clubs don't really give you much indication, but yeah, just once again, so grateful.
Congratulations, Sam. Have you got your brother Dan there with you tonight? And how's he been as someone you can lean on and I suppose get some advice? And what was his advice leading up to tonight?
Yeah, I've got all my family in the lounge room. His advice, I don't know. I do get a lot of advice off him. He's probably been my main role model. Here he is. So, yeah, he probably has been my main role model since Dad doesn't really have a clue about footy. But yeah, which isn't bad. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I'm just lost for words right now.
Hey, Sam, who's quicker, you or Dan across the turf?
Me, I reckon. Hopefully I can smash him one time next year.
Can you put Dan on? Is he around or has he had a couple too many drinks?
Put him on. I reckon he might come in now after hearing that. He might have had a few, but I reckon he might be coming.
Get Dan Butler on from the St Kilda Footy Club.
Yeah, here he is.
There he is. Hey, Dan, I'm sure you can hear us. How proud of you of your brother to be selected for Hawthorn Footy Club, and what will you do if you play against him? What a treat that would be for your family.
Yeah, obviously really proud of him. He's worked really hard for it. So, yeah, really excited to see him hopefully next year and looking forward to smashing him as well.
He's pretty modest. What sort of player is he? How good can he be?
Yeah, I think he can be seriously pretty good. He's yeah, very hard worker, really good on the inside in the contest and real clean hands feeding it out. So, yeah, pretty similar to someone like Zach Butters or Cochin. So, yeah, really look forward to watching him develop over the next few years.
Hey, Dan, he might have you covered in a couple of areas on the footy field, but I reckon that mow, you've got him covered. I don't reckon he can grow a mow as good as that, mate, so you've still got him there.
My goatee's all right, so we'll take that.
Hey, Sam, congratulations. Really pleased for you. Looking forward to see what you can do at Hawthorn for the next few years.
Thanks heaps, guys. Appreciate it.
And thanks to Dan Butler as well for jumping on for a chat. Always good to see the family affair, Joey. Yeah, we're just having a look at the GWV Rebels draftees so far. Shifter and, gee, they had a really strong list, don't they, this year? They had some talent there, Josh Gibkiss and Hobbs, and now Butler to join Lohmann. We might have made a comment yesterday. They had 9 contenders. How good's that for a regional club to have that many guys and the best 100-odd players around Australia? Yeah, it's awesome. Now, Geelong's up next, Shifter. Give us some names. What are we looking at for the Cats? Well, you'll wonder, right? Hold that thought. They've made their mind up.
With pick 24, the Geelong Cats have selected Toby Conway from the Geelong Falcons.
That's the ruckman the Cats supporters have been calling out for, I think. He's the best ruckman, other than Sam Darcy, that we'll say is a key position and/or ruckman. But this boy at 205 centimetres is the best right round Australia, and he's a local boy, Geelong Falcons boy. He'll just have to come up the road to Skills Stadium, just around the corner. He'd been getting some tuition from Big Brad Ottens too, just in his own time to improve his game. He's got a great ruck craft even now for an 18-year-old. He'll need to develop the body further. In fact, he's watched Oscar McInerney as one that he has admired, particularly for the way he gets down the back to help out. You know, I love that work ethic of him. He also get down at centre bounce too and follow up like Brad Ottens could. So he'll just take some time, but I think the Cats have invested in a ripper there. there.
Yeah, and generally most ruckmen do take time to develop at AFL level. Certainly he was the best ruckman left in the draft pool, wasn't he, after a couple of the big ones got drafted in the mid-season. Geelong, we knew, were probably in the market for a ruckman. They've got Segler and Reece Stanley, who are both 30, so they needed that young developing ruck, and they've got young Conway. And again, as you said, Shifter, another Geelong Falcon, and we've seen they've got a history. They love staying local. They had 13 on their list last year, the Geelong Falcons. A couple got delisted, but there's another one for them.
Mick Ablett is in Perth. What do you make of what you're seeing so far over there?
Yeah, fantastic selection by the Cats. I really like this kid. He is your modern-day ruckman. He certainly gets into positions to win the ball around the ground. Not afraid to get a handball receive either. So I'm not surprised that the Cats have gone down that path.
With pick 25, the Geelong Cats have selected Mitchell Nevitt from the Geelong Falcons.
Well, we'll stay at home again.
Yeah.
Absolutely a wrap. This boy will be from Grovedale, just up the road, and he's the best and fairest winner at the Falcons this year. Tall midfielder, 193-centimetre boy with speed and endurance.
As we said, another beautiful, impressive athlete. We know Geelong love to draft those athletes. You know, they've had Blitzarves and Henry and even Max Holmes as an athlete, so they love that type of play. But the prototype, 193-centimetre midfielder, that's where the game is now. He's good in stoppage and can go forward and catch it. And as we said, we touched on all the Geelong Falcons already at the Cats, and you can add a couple more to that list. So they love to keep them at home. Well, I think for as long as we can remember, they've always been able to either draft locals or get locals to come back to the footy club. Just a wonderful environment to be at, the Geelong Football Club, living down there now. So, yeah, they've kept them homegrown once again. So
Hawthorn's up next. And Geelong have picked a ruckman and a tall midfielder, so clearly they're focusing on some height as well, Shifter.
Yeah, and the boys producing the players now at the Falcons, with Mick Turner moving on and retiring after a brilliant career in helping develop players. Paul Corrigan's now the coach, a former draftee to the Cats, played 50-odd games down there. And Tom Lonigan's the talent operations manager, one of the most courageous Cats of all time. He'd been at the Cannons. He's moved down there to help the boys of Geelong. So they have done a great job to prepare these two boys.
Mick Turner, an iconic name in football circles. He's produced so many AFL players over the journey, and I hope he's enjoying his retirement or whatever he's up to. Now the Hawks are up next, and are we thinking they're going to go for another midfielder? What are we thinking, Joey?
Well, we do know they need midfielders. They need to continue to stock up. They obviously took Ward last night early, Sam Butler a couple of picks ago, but they still need to try and replenish O'Meara and Shields and Mitchell and these types of guys. They've got Warple and a couple of others coming through.
Ward.
Yeah. So that I think maybe a midfielder. You wonder what they think with their forward line. We know they've got Kaczynski and Mitchell Lewis, who are both late picks, and a couple of really good picks by the Hawks. But with Jack Gunston getting on a little bit, even Luke Bruce as well, maybe they look to improve their forward line. But maybe they just take the best available. So it'd be interesting to see which way they go.
Well, Shifter, who is the best available? If you're Hawthorn right now, who are you looking at?
Well, will they go for the obvious one that was under their noses, a boy called Tyler Sonsi that played midfield too and had a game up at Box Hill. His first VFL game, had 22 and kicked a goal. But he's a star from the Eastern Rangers, coached there by Travis Cloke. So he's one that just injured at the wrong time this year. So it was a short season, it was, but I remember his first game, his best on the ground in the opening round of the NAB League at the start of the year, and had that great game at Box Hill. But then missed some of those, or that national challenge match. So not all went to plan for him this year, but he's a very talented player.
And it's a rarity to have another pick inside 30 for Hawthorn. I think last we saw they've only had 8 top 30 picks in the last 10 years. So it's been rare, but they've been a club that's been so good at being able to find some diamonds in the rough. You think of James Warple was at pick 45, Blake Hardwick was at pick 44. So whichever way they go, you know they're going to get a beauty. Mark McKenzie there, the list manager, a former teammate of mine at the Northern Knights all those years ago. So he's doing a great job down there.
Could he play?
He was a very good player in his own right, absolutely. So he's still working on the phones at the moment.
So a clear change of direction for Hawthorn. They're focusing heavily on the draft. We knew that in the trade period. They didn't quite get done what they wanted to do, but they're still going to get some elite young talent in with these multiple top 30 picks. Yeah, absolutely. And they've got they've admitted they're down that path. They would have liked to get another pick. You know, we saw in the trade period they ideally would have liked to have traded out a bit of a senior experience to get in another pick. They weren't able to do it, but this is a long-term play for the Hawks, and they've just got to make sure they get the right pick. So they're taking their time.
Sam Mitchell seems to be pretty hands-on from what we've heard. He's got a keen eye for the draft himself. So
and he was part of your draft as well, Joey.
He was. He was the pick before me, pick 36 to the Hawks. And
did they get that right?
The following pick, I think they'll be pretty happy with the pick they took. Yeah.
Do you remember Sam Mitchell coming through, Shifter?
I do. Like, he's a dual best and fairest winner at the Eastern Ranges and wasn't
played
picked.
at Box Hill.
And wasn't picked. He had to win a Liston trophy, which he did on his pathway through to becoming then a rising star in the AFL and then a champion of the game. So what a story on perseverance.
That's
and
right.
Just believing in your talent.
The great story for any kid that doesn't get drafted tonight, that there's still other ways to get there and become one of the all-time greats.
With pick 26, Hawthorn have selected Connor McDonald from the Dandenong Stingrays.
Connor McDonald, Shifter. Talk to us about him.
Halbury College boy from out there at the Dandenong Stingrays. Like what I've seen of him. There's one night at Frankston this year where Eastern played Dandenong and this boy, it was frosty, cold conditions and he was the best player on the ground. Keeps his feet, great at stoppages, uses the ball well. Coached by Matty Lloyd out there at Halbury too, so he'd have a good handle on this boy's ability. Can play on the wing or play inside, but he's got that ability to just read the play, the footy now stuff. Love those boys that get it off hands before it hits the deck, you know, and you see that at stoppage, off hands, even off packs. You know, they're seeing the cues far earlier than the lesser players. They're just reading the game so well. He averaged 30 disposals a game, so ball magnet as well. No surprise to see him go. It was just a case of wear.
Yeah, we spoke about his coach, Sam Mitchell. There's a lot of similarities in regards to just being a ball magnet. Averaged, I think, 30 touches a game at the NAB League. Just knows how to get the footy. Smart IQ. Just one of those natural footballers. So not necessarily the best athlete out in this draft, but just knows how to play footy. And I think they've got themselves a good one there. That he's probably ready to play, pretty early next season.
Mick Ablett, you like this pick?
Yeah, certainly do, Tom. He's obviously from my neck of the woods out in the Dandenong Stingrays, so very happy to see another one of those boys go. But I liken him a lot to a former Dandenong Stingray and Luke Davies-Uniacke. He's just, like you say, and Joey mentioned it, very, very good footy IQ. And one of the things I loved when you watch his vision and you look, he gets into that spot for that 45 kick. We hear a lot about that in modern-day football and its ability to open up the game. He just does that exceptionally well.